talking about women or films or anything of the sort. And I just felt that I needed to make a film, and I wanted to make a film that was very much, to me as a director and a DP, and something that I call more of an art film, but it was absolutely 100% factual in terms of who she was and all the statistics. So in this process, as I said, being a cinematographer and being a director and being a female, as I looked to the future, I realized that the statistics very much played against me, and this is why. If you look at this chart in the last 10 years, the graph will show you the percentage of men compared to women. Over the past 20 years in a key position for directors, writers, cinematographers, and editors. In 10 years, the ratio never got above 20%. Just in 2017, of the top 250 films, only 12% had female directors, 70% had female writers, and only 4% had female cinematographers. Since the Academy Awards first aired in 1929, just 5 women have been nominated for Best Director. Lina Wertmuller, Jane Campion, Sofia Coppola, Katrin Bigelow, and this year Greta Gerwig. Of those women, only Katrin Bigelow took home the Oscars. This year was incredibly special because Rachel Morrison, who's actually also a friend and a colleague, is the first woman ever to be nominated for cinematography. So looking at these statistics, they're very, very grim, but it hasn't always been this way. And I think I find it really interesting because there is so much conversation now, like how do we fix that? Where's the problem? What do we have to do about it? And I kind of with all the research that I've done about Lois Weber and stuff, we just have to look back, and if we look back in the history, we might find some answers. Between 1920 and 1919, Universal had 11 women directors working for them regularly, including Lois Weber, and they made 170 films during that time. Women screenwriters wrote half of the silent films copyrighted between 1915 and 1925. In 1920, directing was such a prominent field for women. Ida May Park, a director of 14 movies and a writer of more than 50 films, she described directing as an open field for hardy and determined women. Park also predicted that once the profession emerged from the embryonic state, women would find no finer calling than directing. So it turns out there were many successful women being directors, writers, and producers during the silent film era. And I will focus on 3 of them. Of course, there was, as I said, many others. And the reason is because of their key role to success is credited to another woman. And I think it's something that we can learn for the future and implement as each one of us go through our own careers and build our own in order to extend and pass on to another woman. Alice Guy Blanchet, she's a film pioneer. She made her first film in 1896. She's considered a first woman director, and for the 10 years, probably the only filmmaker in the world. She directed and supervised over 700 silent films. I think actually out of that 150 were sound films. In 1912, she moved to US from France, and she built her own production studio before Hollywood even existed as we know it. What's interesting is that Lois Weber worked for her. She trained under her and she learned from her. And so in addition to what you heard in the film about Lois Weber, She also is a woman who pioneered the use of the split screen technique in the movie Suspense. There's one knowledge. I think it was in Norway or Sweden. There was that somebody actually also used some split screen, but she was definitely the first in US. She also was one of the first directors that used close-ups. If any of you have interest in finding a little more about Lois Weber, 2 short films, and you can find them on YouTube. One is called Shoes, that you can see the power of using a close-up, and Suspense. It's an absolutely incredible film which uses the split screen, and I really highly recommend for anybody to search those 2 films. And then Weber, who had her own studio, she then hires a young woman with the name Marian Benson Owens as a screenwriter. She will later be known to us as Frances Marion. And Marion wrote screenplays for top actresses at the time, like Mary Pickford, who was the first performer to ever receive a $1 million contract, and she actually beat Charlie Chaplin to it by 2 years. Marion hosted something what they call like a Friday night evenings, where she would bring women together, women who were power players, from actresses, directors, screenwriters. They would exchange notes on business, on their experiences, and they formed very long-lasting friendships. So by the end, Marion's career was actually launched by Weber. She has written 325 films. She was the highest paid screenwriter in Hollywood, and she was the first female writer to win 2 Academy Awards. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is because having knowledge, it really makes it easier for us to understand and to see our path to the success that women once had and that they could have again. There's always a question why and how we lost that place, what actually happened. And in a short, it's really that once the more money got made, the Wall Street became involved, and the industry kind of got consolidated, and we started having these studio systems. So from 100 small production company in 1920s, by 1993 we actually really just have 7 major studios, and slowly women got pushed out. If you look at just one company like Universal that was hiring Lois Weber, they used to have 11 prolific women directors in the early 20s, in 1920s, and then they really completely stopped hiring women. 1982 is a very important year, and even I was surprised and didn't ever think of 1982 as something very important, but it truly is, because that was the year that Universal hired a woman director, Amy Heckerling, to direct Fast Times at Richmond High. And why is that significant? Because they haven't hired a woman to direct a film over 50 years. Not one single woman. That's just mind-boggling. So this is a lot about history, and I'm not a historian, but as I said, when I was working on Lois Weber, it is impossible not to keep searching and finding out more information. And I'm also genuinely really interested in topic. So I really would, so I will talk a little more about my work, and instead of talking about work that I've done before, I'm gonna talk about the work that I've done in the last year and what's coming up. I do feel incredibly fortunate that I had an option, and not everybody has this, but somehow I lucked out that I had opportunities, and maybe because the first documentary I ever shot won Oscar, those opportunities came easier to me, but I was able to pick what I wanted to work on. And so I did focus on the very big topics that are my interest, which is politics, social issues, also like sports, and obviously women issues. But this year in particular, because of everything that's going on, I decided that I wanted to concentrate on female-centric projects. And it's kind of very special. I actually, just as of last night, that I got a permission to show 2 teasers of the 2 documentaries that I just got finished. And so I'm kind of really thrilled to show that. Since we are in the midst of a significant cultural shift, as women across the nation are claiming their voices and their power in an unprecedented way, gender parity is coming to the front through movements like Me Too, Lean In, and Time's Up. So we need to see and honor the women of the women and their shoulders that we are standing on. So the first teaser we're gonna see is the film called Ahead of the Curve, and it is about the founder of the first lesbian magazine that's called Curve. It used to be called The New, but then they actually changed it to Curve. This is
One of the principles of social change has been visibility. To see lesbian on the cover of the magazine said, here we are.
She didn't have to put women of color in that magazine, but she did. Just the power of seeing me.
For the first time, we could see pictures of all different kinds of lesbians. Black lesbians, Asian, working class women, big women, small women. It was really, really important to feeling like we had some power.
I looked forward to the day that a magazine like ours wouldn't be necessary because we wouldn't be discriminated against. We wouldn't be isolated.
A new tragic case of a bullied gay teen taking his own life.
In the last couple of years, we're starting to go backwards.
The legislature passes a controversial adoption bill.
The purpose of this bill is to restrict and discriminate against people based on their sexual orientation.
More than 100 anti-LGBT bills have been introduced in 29 states.
It is lethal to even walk down the street for transgender women of color in this country, still.
Reports of 3 other black transgender women killed in Texas, Michigan, and Arizona.
We've made huge gains, but we have a long way to go.
So Ahead of the Curve is a story about a woman named Franco Stevens, who is a strong lesbian female role model. And through her story, this film actually charts the course of how far we have come, both politically and socially, in the last 25 years. The producers of this film and director, Jen Rainin, they made a really big effort that everybody who works on this film would be a female. And it was very important to them, and it was important to me as a cinematographer that all of our crew would be, would be different and than what we are used to. And it wasn't always easy. We would go into smaller towns in America, and we couldn't always find women with the experience or that had the experience that we needed. And they put a lot of time and energy where we would still hire them and we would mentor them, and we would fly in people and women who had more experience, but then we would also, in the towns where we were working, teach and mentor other women. So they would have the knowledge, experience, and they could continue and be able to be in position to be hired the next time that the production comes around. And so another film that also did the same thing is the second teaser that I'm going to show you. And we also had an all-female crew. Now, I'm not advocating that all the productions should have all-female crew. everything is nice in a balance. But I think in a hindsight of what's been happening and the lack of women being hired, this was something that was more of a statement, and also really empowering and getting more women trained so they could so we can have more options and women can have bigger opportunities. So this documentary is about stunt women and the need to recognize the work that they do. This film also highlights the lack of female stunt coordinators. Even though there are many women qualified to work as a stunt coordinator, not just stunt women, but like stunt coordinators, they had incredibly difficult job. Incredibly difficult time getting these jobs, and this is a film that talks about that. Work in progress. I did painted a pretty grim picture in the beginning through the history and where we are and the lack of women directors and cinematographers and writers and producers. There really has to be a change, and I really want to speak about 2018. 2018, I think, is an incredibly important year for film industry, for women in the film industry. And to be really honest, in the hindsight of all the recent revelations and everything that's been happening, I feel like that even opportunities for this film that got some funding and opportunity to do a TV movie, it's really effort of other people to say something needs to change. Who are women out there that we can empower and support and invest, and so we can hear those voices heard. So on the positive side, I think we are in a very, very special time. And just recently in Cannes Film Festival, there was an initiative that got signed, which is a 50-50 by 2020, which is a promise that 50% of the directors that would be having their films by 2020, there would be equal representation in Cannes Film Festival. Also at Venice Film Festival, Sarajevo Film Festival, Toronto just signed also an initiative, a 5-year program of supporting women and to get those numbers in a better place. Sundance has always been a huge supporter and very aware of issue. There are many others, like NBC has a program now, ABC. There are many other who are coming up and looking into what can be changed and what can be done. As I said in the beginning, what I did find the most inspiring about looking back in the history, and especially during the silent era, is about women helping other women. And as Alice Guy Blanchet helped Lois Weber, and Lois Weber helped Frances Marion, this is something that I, as a woman in this industry, and other women, we have a responsibility to extend our hand, to support, to mentor, to invest, to whatever our abilities are, promote, so we can get other women, so other women can get more opportunities. And why is that important? It's not about women should just work more, or there's no other reason except we are 50% of the population, and we are missing a female voice in this incredibly magical medium that inspires us, that makes us feel things, that makes us do things that that we enjoy, and it is really, really important that women get representation and their voice. And personally, I'm really excited for what's coming up, because I think we are coming up in a really special times. Thank you.